Welcome back to Corporate Fuckery, the show that exposes the cost of autopilot ambition, the psychology underneath our lives at work, and the truth-telling required to choose what's best for you. I'm your host, Lauren DeGolia, success coach, subconscious strategist, astrologer, technologist, and your favorite boardroom truth teller. When we opened season 2, we stepped into the world of powerhouse women redefining power, legacy, and success on their own terms. Women who wear the title with pride, but who also know the weight of it. Women who look unstoppable on the outside while quietly navigating the pressure, the politics, and the emotional labor that no one ever warned them about, and very few people talk about. What we've uncovered over these last 9 episodes together is something deeper. Powerhouse isn't an identity that you perform. It's a truth that you return to. And this season wasn't about teaching you how to hold more, push harder, or out-resilience the system. It was about revealing what happens when women tell the truth about their careers, their boundaries, their bodies, their money, their leadership, their exhaustion, and their desire for a life that expands them rather than extracts from them. What emerged wasn't a blueprint. It was a community, a living, breathing reminder that you're not navigating your ambition in isolation. There are women everywhere, at every level of every organization, who are questioning the rules, renegotiating their power, and rewriting the story of what work and success get to look like. So today, in our season 2 finale, we're stitching together the wisdom, the fire, the honesty, and the clarity these women brought to the table, and turning it into something that you can carry with you. A manifesto, a rally cry, a mirror, and a map for the woman who knows she's on the edge of her next chapter. Because whatever you're holding right now, whatever you're questioning, untangling, or outgrowing, on the other side isn't collapse. It's expansion. It's your agency. It's the life that feels like it was actually designed for you. So let's get into it. We started the season by naming the game, what being a powerhouse has really cost us. This was our origin point where so many powerhouse women first learned to perform strength like a job description. Here was my definition going into the season. Powerhouse is a word that feels a little bit glamorous and a little bit seductive. We wear it like armor. It signals unstoppable, unshakable, unbreakable. But here's the truth. Behind every powerhouse label is a woman carrying more than she was ever built to hold. And that's why we're here. This season is for the women who've been applauded for surviving systems that strip them of their humanity, and who are now ready to reclaim their power differently, on their own damn terms. Because being a powerhouse isn't about holding it all together. It's about having the courage to dismantle what doesn't serve you, to redefine what strength actually looks and feels like, and to create a legacy rooted not in exhaustion, but in truth. Because here's the thing. I know you. You're listening right now because on the outside, your life looks like it's checked all of the boxes. You've climbed the ladder, you've built the business, you've kept the family afloat. People introduce you as the one that can handle anything. Their quote unquote go-to. But inside, you're probably running on fumes. Your calendar looks like a game of whack-a-mole. One minute, it's a corporate fire drill. The next, it's parenting. The next, it's trying to heal generational trauma that you didn't even create. And in between, you're Googling how to slow down time because your parents are aging, your kids are growing, and you're lying awake at night wondering if this is all going to actually matter in the end. You plan for the worst case scenarios because that's what feels safe. Micromanaging outcomes because your nervous system believes that control is the only way that you're going to survive. And even though you're exhausted, it's kind of working. The hardest part is, I know you hold a big vision. I know you know deep down you were meant or built for more. But how is that more going to actually come to fruition when you're juggling all the other things at the same time? The funny thing is, you look at other women who seem like they've cracked this magical code and you think, where's my magic? Why hasn't it clicked for me? Why am I not smart enough to figure this out? But let me tell you this. Being a powerhouse isn't about having it all figured out. It's about knowing deep in your bones that you have the ability to figure it out, that the power has always been inside you. And I know how cliche that sounds, but stay with me for just a hot second. Because the beauty is, there isn't one single definition of a powerhouse woman. We're not all cut from the same cloth, following the same blueprint, although a lot of us have subscribed to a single model. We're here to break that down, though, this season. A powerhouse woman is her own definition, and that definition evolves over time. It shifts with the seasons she's in, the struggles she's facing, and the vision that she's carrying. Which is why I don't want to just give you my take here throughout this whole entire season. I want you to hear it straight from powerhouse women themselves. We started with the truth that powerhouse is not actually a personality type. It's often a coping strategy, a brilliant one at that, built by women who have been applauded for surviving conditions that would flatten most people. And that brings us to one of the biggest truths that surfaced this season. Being a powerhouse was never actually the problem, although we want to convince ourselves that our ambition is the thing that's actually burning us every single day. But being overloaded, undervalued, and emotionally saturated actually was. And we heard this echoed again when corporate Christie joined us in episode 3.
It's like I had to blow everything up because everything was making me sick and tired and exhausted. And I have a TikTok where I show what I looked like when I was married and what I look like now. And it's still going viral. People are like, holy shit, you look like two completely different people. And I'm like, but they're both me. One is the version of me, I kiss her feet that she got me here. She was being abused. This version, she would never tolerate anyone speaking to her or treating her a certain way. And she has no problem, even if it's her own blood, saying, you can't treat me this way.
I'm out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
So
wow. So, first of all, both of them are powerhouse women, which I love and I admire, right? Because they have both found a different level of what their power means to them. So, I celebrate every shift and change you went through because my journey was very similar. I lost 100 pounds in the last 2 years. That was part of my physical. But before that, I went through all the energetic stuff of it sounds like very similar understanding the frequency. And that's a lot of what I teach my clients is just finding energetic neutrality. Cause a lot of us try and just bypass a lot of shit, right? And just go to like, well, we just want to be happy. And in this work to become this sovereign part of yourself, I believe you have to learn how to create that part that has actually never existed before.
yes. And starting to act like the version of yourself before you become it. You need to,
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. He's a meditation, I don't want to say guru, but like
You can call him a guru.
and
Yeah.
he has tons of research to back it up. So I'm not just going to say he's some guy online. He is very well vetted and he has a ton of
Yes.
success stories, but he has helped me a lot to feel and embody my future success in order to call it in. And in order to retrain my nervous system, you talk about this a lot on your show, to not be scared of success. I think initially my first year of entrepreneurship, when stuff started to work, I got scared and I'd get avoidant and I would doom scroll and plan my content, which was really just me hiding and pushing away my gifts. And I've now since been able to more quickly catch when I'm feeling out of control or feeling scared. And I'm able to check in with myself. And I've got my inner child and my higher self, and we all sit down and we all, my inner child's like, I'm hungry. You haven't fed me today. I'm tired. I don't want to work. And my higher self is like, we need to take better care of you. We're sorry. She takes accountability. And then I'm in the middle, like going like this, like I love you
Yeah.
guys. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I wish we would have done it 36 years ago. We didn't know how, but we, having,
But I celebrate it that you learned it on your own, right? It doesn't sound
yeah,
like you had the support system to model that for you.
yeah,
And when we are cycle breakers, like I am, and we can go into that a little here, I don't really talk about it and have it online, but I'm happy to here. It takes a lot of courage to choose to cut off energy that isn't for you, especially family of origin. And I think it's similar structure to corporate fuckery where it is a known entity and it is socially normalized that this is the structure and this is how everything's supposed to go. And you should be grateful for your job and, all the things. And it's kind of the same mirror with the family unit. It's like, you can't do that to your dad, or you shouldn't do that to blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blank. It doesn't matter. But in reality, when it comes into tapping into your own power, those external forces, including your own career and the career path that you have been addicted to creating for yourself and the success that you have been trying to chase in many cases, doesn't actually fill up the version of you. You talk about it as future self, and I use that as well. Like, future self doesn't subscribe to these models. And so the work is really then to figure out the delta between where you're at and how they do
Yes.
function, so that you can start letting go of some of these very difficult structures and ingrained experiences and expectations and really binds, so that you can move on to that next version of you. Christie's honesty gave language to a universal pattern. Power becomes distorted when your nervous system is in survival mode. Ambition becomes avoidance. Control becomes safety. And your powerhouse identity becomes armor heavy enough to sink you. But episode 3 wasn't just about destruction, it was about rebirth, about radical truth that future versions of you won't subscribe to what your depleted version currently tolerates. And that theme led us directly into episode 4. Tell us, Beverly, what it means in your mind to be a powerhouse woman.
Oh my gosh. So I think, what resonates the most with that is removing all of the initial cliches that I think often wear down the ultra hoorah around that type of title, right? When you think of a powerhouse woman, you often hear strength, you hear resiliency, you hear power, you hear, the ability to move forward through obstacles. And all of those things are true. I also believe that a powerhouse woman is someone who is rooted in a sense of not losing their empathy, not losing their humanism while on the path to greatness, while on the path to being excellent. And I think for me, where you're able to successfully balance that line behind, not losing yourself in the game of trying to climb whatever ladders you find yourself climbing, while also having a sense of radical accountability, owning a sense of radical self-awareness and growth as you're doing the work. To me, that represents true power, because I think we're all working towards, especially if you are familiar with not only Lauren's content, but my own, you recognize the importance of the changing era of leadership. And to me, a big part of that change, a major element of that change, is understanding that we can't leave our humanism at the door. And powerhouse women not only understand that, they embrace that, they welcome it, and they see those dynamics, those human experiences as strengths, not as weaknesses that will make you less palatable or less likable in the hiring process as a leader. So to me, those are the base level things outside of those otherwise cliches that you see at the conferences all the time about, no, it's about embracing all aspects of who we are as people, as women in this context, and in celebrating our intersectionality while we do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Both Christie and Beverly highlighted the human part of being in a corporate setting that isn't created for your humanity. And Beverly named the most important part of leadership that books refuse to touch: real power. Real true leadership requires humanity, that empathy isn't a weakness, it's actually a competitive advantage. We forget that part because we barely feel human most of the time navigating our day to day. But here was the pulse underneath it all. Power that costs you your humanity isn't power at all. It's performance. And many of us have a really hard time taking off that mask. That brings us to the next chapter of this manifesto: that the systems, the time, money, work, and the middle school politics of corporate life are part of the narrative that we're trying to play every single day. One of the biggest collective exhale moments came when my guest, Olivia, dropped this truth bomb. The work then becomes like not subscribing to the middle school bullshit. The work then, as a woman who is open-hearted and kind, because that's where corporate fuckery, like in life, business, and career, runs rampant, right? We get swirled up in the middle school mentality, and then that's all we live and know. And that's where you, I think, in the social media streets that you spend a lot of your time in, are like, women can be horrible. And the same at the boardroom level. Like it's same. So how do we shift that so that the cost of the ambition that we desire on the inside gets us to where we want to go without feeling like what's wrong with me? Everyone hates me.
Well, I think so much of it is surrounding yourself with people like you, Lauren, right? Who truly do want to lift you up and support you. And, as an ambitious woman, as somebody that, whether it's you or, me or another woman, if you have dreams and ambitions that are different maybe than other people have, you have to surround yourself with people who will just cheer you on. Because if you have anybody going, you're going to start to doubt yourself, right? And so it's really hard to find these people, I will say that, because there's a very small intersection of the people who will cheer you on and whose feedback you also trust, right?
100%.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're one of those people for me, Lauren, right? So if I said to you, like, we're going to go to the moon, you'd be like, I love you, but I don't know if that's realistic for right now, right? Whereas I've said things to you like, I want to do a book tour, I want to do this thing. And you're like, great, how can I support you? And I remember when I met Julie Costa years ago, who we both did Anchored. I met her, I don't know, 7 years ago at this point. And it threw me. I actually resisted her in the beginning. And she knows this, so I'm open to talking about it. Because she came on, we did just a coffee chat, and she said to me, how can I support you? And I was like, sure, okay. She's really like somebody that's going to support me. And I resisted that because I wasn't used to another woman saying that. And she actually is, and obviously we adore her, and she is somebody that really supports people. But I wasn't used to that. And so it made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to feel people out a little bit, right? Offer to support them, see how they respond to you. But you do need to find your people, and that can be online, right? That doesn't have to be in person. Most of mine are online. I just happened to meet Lauren in person because she flew here and I got to have lunch with her. It's hard, but that's the only way that you're going to do it. And the other thing I will say too is I don't look at competition. I never look at I don't even believe in competition. I literally don't believe in it because what we are building, what we do is unlike anything else. There are other people who see us as competition. And so I don't look at them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes things will come up and people will be like, did you see this person was like kind of stole your stuff or was talking about, the same thing you're talking about? And I was like, I didn't see it because I don't look at them.
Yeah.
I'm so head down in what we're building, which sometimes is not always the best thing, but it makes me not spend energy on things I don't have to.
Yeah, and that's where my brain just went to, because the same applies in the corporate structure, right? Where we are literally compared roles to roles, levels to levels. You're supposed to be like them. You're not supposed to be like them. Your role is supposed to be this way. So everyone literally is your competition, and you get spun up in the how do I navigate this? And this is where I think a lot of people, women especially, are giving a lot of energy to that validation, that external validation of, oh, am I seen? Oh, am I understood? Or are you perceiving me the right way? And you can spend so much of your life subscribing to that model and get yourself absolutely nowhere and feel actually less than over time. Reminder, the middle school politics that you're navigating every single day actually have nothing to do with you, and giving them your energy isn't what's best for you. Every woman I know, corporate, entrepreneurial, or somewhere in between, has navigated the emotional hangover of these type of politics disguised as leadership culture. And what Olivia reminded us was, you cannot become the next version of yourself inside an environment that demands you to shrink to fit inside. But the pressure isn't just social, it's structural. Heather Boneparth said it out loud in episode 5.
Money and care are inextricably linked. I think that we see women stepping away or downshifting from the workforce in a way where it feels sometimes like we don't know whether we made the decision or whether the decision was made for us. We find ourselves questioning what role we have, both in society, in the workforce, and at home. And sometimes, we don't even know, like I said, who made these decisions. And I think one of the most damaging things that many of us believe, and I'm guilty of it too, was that systemic institutional failures were failures of my own. And that is simply not true. So that is how I think we find ourselves in this position where money, care, income, as it relates to power and self-worth, result in women easily losing themselves in certain arrangements unless they make active efforts to assert their place and reclaim their time. It is such a slippery slope because if it happened to me, this like incredibly conscious, ambitious, driven career woman, then I think it could happen to anyone.
I know with every bone in my body that you have owned part of your career or your job that is not yours to own. This was one of the most important truths of the entire season, that systemic failures are not personal failures. You are not struggling because you are inadequate. You are struggling because the system is incoherent. But that feeling of inadequacy, it doesn't just go away. It's always lurking there in the background. And I know this full well because I blew up an entire career feeling like I had no options. But what do you do when your back is against the wall? How do you choose how to navigate forward? Mollie Tregillis gave us some perspective that quitting isn't for everyone, but how do we navigate that when we don't know what our options are? Let's listen in.
I spend a lot of time trying to work with women in corporate because my message is not everyone should leave. Like, that's just silly. That's not fair. But what I want to try and do is help people understand how to maximize their impact in their role without all the busy work. I think for a lot of us, we've been taught or it's been modeled to us that the way we're a good employee, certainly in the early days, is to look really busy and do a lot of things. And as we go on, we need to extract ourselves from that. This is where I like a lot of work about corporate unlearning and work out, how do I actually have impact? And it might be doing a lot less, but really being really targeted and strategic about our priorities and what we're working on. For a lot of women I coach, I'd say, what are let's say the top 4 concerns of executive in your organization? And they're like, oh, I don't actually know. And I'm like, you need to really know that. And then you need to filter it down and say, how does my role contribute? So that at the end of the day, that's what the company cares about. And you are there to contribute to some part of that. And if we keep getting distracted, why and with what? If we're getting distracted because our team is like messaging us all the time and wanting rapid fire responses, we need to recalibrate that. We need focus time and we need to work out how we have most strategic impact. And so this is why I think for most women could work 25 to 30% less and be seen to be having more impact, recalibrating it. So this is kind of one of my messages of hope. It's like the answer's not working more and more and more. Like it just can't be. It's about stepping back, creating some space and looking around and saying, what have I got to do to actually nail this role? And then gather data to showcase that I'm nailing this role, because many women are not great at talking strategically about their impact. So I do a lot of work training women on that. And even before that, the big pillar that it always explodes the internet when I do it, and it's like has women in tears, it's like articulating your unique value proposition. You've got to be able to answer the question, why is my workplace lucky to have me? Regardless of your level, because otherwise you're just always in a proving energy. And we have to have a different mindset and mentality that there's a value exchange going on. They're paying me money. I'm giving them value. That's the exchange. It's not my life. It's not my identity. It's not my forever everything. It's a job. I might love my job, but it's still, there's a 2-way value exchange going on. And we need to get a little more perspective about that, I think, and work accordingly.
We need to etch that into every executive powerhouse woman's laptop, that your value is not measured in hours or hustle. It is measured in impact, clarity, and self-trust. You're carrying around the emotional labor, the cultural labor, the strategic labor, and then blaming yourself for being tired. You're not tired because you're failing. You're tired because you're holding up the whole fucking building. Which brings us to the identity work and the third act of this Manifesto episode that we're focused on today. Act 3 is all about agency and identity, who you are outside the job that you're actually doing every day. And this season kept circling back to the same truth. If your identity is tethered to your job, your worth will always feel negotiable. Raena Boston named this perfectly. Choosing yourself in a situation where you were so dedicated to the vision, you were so bought in on the Kool-Aid, and you were like, oh my God, I have to make a decision that feels like it goes against everything I just believed in. How do you recommend that powerhouse women take the first step in making that decision for themselves? Because they know that the parts of them that are in conflict, like it feels easier to stay than to go. But then it feels easier to go than to stay. You know what I mean? It's a duality that not many people recognize as soul crushing in a lot of ways.
I think what's important is to not let an external place become your identity. And I think that that so often happens in corporate settings, right? Googlers, you're a Googler, you're a, whatever, however you name yourself, that your identity becomes the thing.
Yeah.
And it's wrapped up in who you are. And it is so important, as much as possible, to separate those two things. So that you can see the line of demarcation, or you can see when something is starting to what you're willing to compromise or give up in order for your identity to still be the thing. And also, in what ways are you abandoning yourself? In what ways are you overperforming or overfunctioning to prove your worth? I think it requires check-ins with yourself of, where is this becoming my identity versus it's a thing that I do.
I'm a big believer that this is the actual identity burnout that no one talks about. It's the erosion of self when your title becomes your personality. When your belonging to the corporate machine requires your self-abandonment. When that ambition or success that you're so conditioned to chase requires your constant overfunctioning. And when your excellence becomes evidence of your disposability. Quick reminder here, you can't lead a life you're proud of if you keep abandoning yourself to belong to systems that don't actually see you and in truth are committed to not seeing the real you. And that's really hard to do when you're so used to just performing and wanting to do a good job and committed to the excellence and the perfection of being the reliable powerhouse performer that you are. But Roxy Couse, she broke down the pie method for us, something that I had never heard of and generationally now see completely differently in my career, and maybe you'll see differently in your career as well. So this might be my zennial. I've never heard of the pie method. Drop it like it's hot. I got to hear it. 10% performance, I got that. And then I got image, and then I got something else.
Yep. So performance alone will not get you promoted. Performance is only 10% of how you're viewed when it comes to performance. So people that you work really hard and you're like, why am I not getting promoted? Because all you did was work really hard.
Yeah.
So the other aspects that tie into the pie method is image. How are you perceived? Do people like you? All of those things. So you have to be likable and you have to engage with the right people, because exposure is the other aspect of, are you getting the exposure to the people that are in the rooms making the decisions on whether you'll be promoted or not? Are you speaking up in meetings? Those things. And the image and the exposure makes up like 90% of how you're viewed in terms of who gets promoted and who doesn't. So those people that we can't stand, because they're always talking up in meetings and they're always hanging out with leadership, those are the people that get promoted.
Yeah, in my day, those were called brown nosers. And what I love about this, first of all, is I can see generationally that we got a skew here somewhere, okay? So a lot of the work I do has to do with subconscious reprogramming and helping you change the thoughts that you're thinking so you can create more of what you want in your life, your career, or your business. And if we have women like us who are eldest daughters who nobody has ever said, hey, girl, the pie method exists and I need you to start thinking about this, you know that any eldest daughter or high achiever or whatever definition, type A, listening to this, they would be like, I'm going to go nail the pie method. I'm going to go figure that out. I am committed to pie. I will do any pie from here to Timbuktu. But nobody was like, hey, some of us had figured that out naturally. But I just think generationally, we were always taught by our own moms. I mean, my mom is like, oh, I'm Norwegian. Like, I could do anything. I could lift a house if I needed to. Like, I'm strong enough. I could do anything. And I'm like, yeah, Me
Mhm.
too. But when you start thinking about image and you start thinking about some of the other experiences and exposure, like those are really big and just as important and require a level of emotional intelligence that a lot of people in, and I'm not trying to be an ageist here, but it's like the Gen X, like they weren't here to worry about anybody. They don't give a shit about exposure. They
Mhm.
don't. They're like, I know what I know and I'm good at what I do. And I trust that about them. But I can just see generationally speaking here where we got off kilter and that there's some difference generationally in how we're even approaching our work.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's so funny about the pie method was I was told that method by one of my white male peers who was like, Roxy, this is the thing. After he had gotten promoted.
He's like, I'm big on the E and I'm big on the I and not so
It's
much on the
like-
P. But it
He's
makes
like,
sense.
Roxy, you work too hard. Like
Yeah.
you need to chill out a little.
Roxy blew the lid off a pattern a lot of us haven't had the language for. We've been told performance is the whole game, when really it's only 10% of the pie. The rest, how we're perceived and who actually sees us, has been running the show in the background, kind of like your subconscious mind. If pie gave us the politics of being seen, Corinne gave us the economics of being fulfilled. She handed us a different decision-making filter altogether. That your job is not your life. It's a technology that turns your time into money. And your real metric isn't profit, it's utility. The total sum of joy, meaning, contentment, and fulfillment over your lifetime. Here's how she explained it. Give our good listeners here a little too long didn't read TLDR on what your unique approach to all this is. I know I talked about time versus money as the levers, but I really find the way that you distill this down and the data, you guys, the data and evidence that she has in this book is next level. But give us a preview of that and then let's unpack it a little bit.
Yeah. So the framework in the book is that for us to do better, get more out of our lives, we have to figure out what we're maximizing. And economics has a really useful tool for this, which is called utility functions. And when we model people and how they make decisions, we model people as maximizing utility. The same way we model firms as maximizing profit. Okay. So, right here is going to be my divergence with lean in, because the message of lean in is make the firm more profit. But my message to women is that no, that's your boss's objective function. That's what they're maximizing. That's not yours. Yours is utility. So, what is that? It's the sum total of your joy, meaning, contentment, fulfillment over a lifetime. At the end of your life, if you added up your personal video game score, that's your utility function. And only you know what it is. Only you know what you get points from, right? So for somebody, they're going to say, oh, I wish I had spent more time in my garden. And for somebody else, they're going to be like, that doesn't sound like fun, right? So only you know what you're maximizing, which also means this is an amazing tool to free you from that very human tendency to constantly compare to others.
Yes.
Because someone's career might be moving faster than yours. Somebody's house might look nicer. Somebody's garden might look nicer.
Somebody's sourdough loaf might cook better than yours, and that's fine.
Absolutely. And it's going to be on Instagram and it's going to give you FOMO, right? But you need to understand that only you are maximizing your utility function. And so then in that framework, that's how we get to your job is a technology to convert your time into money.
It's so refreshing. Corinne's reminder that only you know what you're maximizing over a lifetime is the bridge between everything we've heard this season and everything I want you to carry into the next one. Because once you see your power this clearly, the real work becomes choosing how to use it. Which brings me to the way I want you to close out 2025. You may not realize that after listening to the voices from this season, every single thing you admired in these women, their clarity, their courage, their boundaries, their humor, their self-respect, their reinvention, their willingness to question systems that were never built for them, those qualities live in you too. You're not drawn to these conversations because they're aspirational. You're drawn to them because they are recognizable. Because somewhere inside, you know that you were built from a similar blueprint. And the truth is, we're at an inflection point with corporate fuckery. The pendulum has swung so hard toward overwork, under-resourcing, and talent extraction that choosing what's best for you is no longer a luxury, it's a requirement. The scary part is, how do you make a choice that honors you when you've been conditioned to pour from an empty cup, to perform on autopilot, to navigate politics that change the rules every time you get close to winning the game? That's why this podcast exists. I didn't start it to wax poetic about the problems. I started it to give you a way out, a way back to yourself, a way into a career and a life that feel like they were actually designed for you. So here's the manifesto I want you to carry with you. I'm putting it down in the show notes for your reference as well, and I'll be sending it out to my email list as well. Not as pressure, not as homework, but as a North Star for moving forward together. Number 1, you are being shown things for a reason. The misalignment, the frustration, the exhaustion, it's data, not a failure, and it doesn't say anything about who you are or what you're capable of. Number 2, what you want deep down in your soul hole is 100% possible for you. But newsflash, it might take some really difficult choices for you to get yourself where you actually want to go in this life. You just need to be curious enough and brave enough to take the first step towards it. Number 3, your powerhouseness is not the problem. It's the engine for the legacy you want to lead. Stop hiding it. We all need to see it, and we all need to be inspired by you. Number 4, know your energy so that you can see where it's leaking and make adjustments. Your astrology, your nervous system, your thoughts, your patterns, they're not woo. They're operating instructions that are 100% changeable if you're open to it. Number 5, step off autopilot. Those thoughts, those emotions, those behaviors, they were designed to protect you, and they're 100% updatable. Number 6, replace overfunctioning with strategy and self-trust. Let people see your humanity. It won't make anything fall apart. It will finally let things fall into place. I personally know how hard this is, and we're going to talk about this in season 3. But give yourself a little bit more breathing room and watch how you navigate differently. Number 7, build a longer table. Find the people inside and outside the boardroom of life who expand your timeline, not ask you to shrink it on the daily. Number 8, you are radically responsible for your results. Shift your perspective accordingly. And if you can't, book a session. I'm level expert at this. Number 9, choose what's best for you because that is what's best for everyone. Try your value on every single day. It's a practice like anything else, like going to the gym, like doing a burpee or a box jump. Do it until it feels familiar and that you know that you've got your back. And number 10, your ambition is an asset, not a liability. Stop treating it like a character flaw and start treating it like your internal compass. These aren't resolutions. They're reminders of who you already are, but maybe can't see about yourself yet. So as you close out the year, reflect on each of these through the lens of your career, your leadership, your business, your relationships, and your inner world. Where have you abandoned yourself? Where have you outgrown the container you're in? Where are you still negotiating with a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore? And where are you finally ready to choose what's best for you, even in a baby step kind of way? Because that's the whole point of corporate fuckery, not to glorify the grind or to decode the dysfunction, but to help you recognize your power in a system that benefits every time you doubt it. And with that, season 2, oh, I'm going to cry. And with that, season 2 is officially a wrap. Season 3 drops this January, and we're coming in hot with a theme I know you're going to love. I'm calling it New Year, New Rules, because I freaking hate New Year, New You. We do not need a new you. We just need a you that has a little bit more refinement than current you so you can feel more like yourself. We're breaking the habits, the hierarchies, and all of those toxic patterns and concepts that have kept powerhouse women over-functioning and under-recognized. We're rewriting the rules of work, leadership, worth, and success, and we're doing it with clarity, humor, and a level of agency that will feel like coming home. Until then, rest, reset, and remember who the hell you are. This is Lauren DeGolia. This is Corporate Fuckery, and I look forward to seeing you in season 3.